Hi everybody, I'm Carly Porter and I am so excited to show you the Adventure Quilted Backpack tutorial. The first thing that you're going to need to follow along with this is to grab the PDF pattern that has all the different cutting instructions. You can get that at carlyporter.com. Just search for Choose Your Own Adventure Quilted Backpack. I have so much that I want to show you today and I'm so excited, so I hope that you'll watch to the end. If you like what you see and you like these videos, I would love for you to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, before we jump into making our own quilted backpack, I wanted to show you all of the backpacks that I have made so you can get an idea of all the different options and possibilities that you can do with your own backpack. This backpack was designed for you to really choose your own adventure. So that means every time you follow a required step, there are also a list of optional steps that you can do to customize your backpack and make it uniquely your own, but it's really super simple as long as you just follow the required steps. You can make your backpack as simple as possible or very unique and customized. You get to decide on your journey how crazy and in-depth you want to make your backpack or if you just want to keep it simple. I designed this pattern so that it could really grow with you. So in the pattern, you are going to learn all of the necessary skills for making the backpack, but then you'll also get to learn some customizations along the way that you can take with you in the rest of your sewing journey as you make other projects. So I hope that you'll use this pattern at least one time, but maybe it'll be exciting enough that you'll think about all the different ways that you can choose different options and you'll make multiple backpacks. I've made a ton and I want to show them to you. All right, so when I originally started making backpacks, there were a couple of things that were a priority for me personally. Now, I am a quilter at heart. Out of all of the sewing and quilting and projects that you can make, my favorite part is always the quilting. So when I like to practice my free motion quilting or I like to stitch out a new computerized quilting design that I've made, one of my favorite things to do is actually see it stitched onto the fabric. And then I have all of this quilted fabric that doesn't always turn into a functional quilt or even a wall hanging quilt. So I thought it would be fun to use those pieces of pre-quilted fabric to make bags and backpacks out of. If you have not seen my ASMR free motion quilting video where I made these zipper pouches, I would love for you to check that out because the free motion quilting for me is the most fun part, but it's also a bonus to be able to have a functional item at the end of your quilting journey. So when I started making backpacks, I had all of this quilted fabric that I wanted to use, but when I was looking for backpack patterns, it was hard for me to find backpacks that required quilted fabric. Sometimes they just required fabric that was not quilted and stabilized. I didn't like that. I wanted it to be quilted because the quilting is my favorite part. But I also wanted a backpack that would fit my tech equipment just the way that I like it. And that was hard for me to find a backpack that did exactly that. So with the Choose Your Own Adventure Quilted Backpack pattern, it is designed to be very boxy and square because my favorite things to go inside of my backpack are things that are boxy and square. My laptop, my iPad, my notebook, and my memo water bottle that is shaped like a memo notebook or a flask, depending on who you ask. And so when I designed this pattern, there's a bunch of different sizes of finished backpack that you can choose from, but they are all designed to be kind of very techy and square and geometric shape. So keep that in mind because this pattern is very easy because we're dealing with all right angles and sharp edges. There's no curves that you have to try to sew together, which is really nice. I also designed this pattern to have 10 different cutting diagrams. So whether you have a piece of pre-quilted fabric that is small, like a fat quarter, or very wide, like a specialty fabric that comes at 56 inches wide or 60 inches wide or whatever, there is a cutting diagram for you. So you can either choose which cutting diagram you want to use based on the fabric that you have to work with, whether it's just a 1 yard cut or a half yard cut or a fat quarter or something that's wider and narrower, or you can choose your cutting diagram based on the finished backpack size that you want. If you want this just cute little baby got backpack size backpack, you only need a fat quarter. If you want something a little bit bigger but still narrow, there's a cutting diagram for that. Or sometimes you want one that is a little bit more, has a little bit more depth to it, but is still a decent size. Or even one that is a little bit chubby and stout. So when you're picking your cutting diagram, keep those things in mind, and I'm sure you'll be able to find one that works for you. I also hope that you'll use multiple cutting diagrams for different backpacks. So for this tutorial video, because there are so many options, they're all little side quests that you can do as you are going through the 13 steps of the required steps for the backpack pattern. I thought it would be fun for this tutorial to make 3 different backpacks in tandem so that throughout each of the options that we consider, you can see different options applied to different backpacks, because you're not going to want to use every option on just one single backpack. So I have 3 different backpacks that we're going to make together. So for this tutorial, we are going to use the Baby Got backpack size, as well as the one called Thick Boy, which is kind of just a more normal size bag that has a little more depth and is bigger than the Baby Got backpack. And then we're also going to do one that I named the Big Girl Bertha. It's a big backpack that's super deep. It has the biggest footprint. It'll be a good travel backpack, or something that if you are going on a trip and you need some good space, but you still want a backpack size, it's perfect. So we're going to go through those 3 different sizes, and as we do those, hopefully it will really solidify the skills that you learn in this video, because you are going to watch me do it 3 times in a row. We're going to go through all the steps of the pattern, 1 through 13, and then we're going to do little side quests along the way, but each step we are going to conquer it 3 times in a row for the small backpack, the regular size backpack, and the chunky absolute unit of a backpack. So I thought I would show you the ones that I've made in the past. So when I was writing this pattern, I was really just experimenting a ton. I had a lot of pre-quilted fabric at my disposal that I didn't want to go to waste. I wanted to use it somehow. I also found that the backpacks have become a really fun gift to give people. And so it's like to be able to share a little bit of my quilting journey with non-quilters, people in my life that I just love, and I want them to have something from me, but maybe I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to make them an entire quilt. These backpacks have become a really great gift option to share with people that I love. My friend Ashley, who owns this one, she said, you can borrow it for your video, but I want it back right after because I use it every single day. So that's really nice. So I'm excited to show you these. And I will also point out different things in these bags that you can see parts of my journey of writing the pattern. So things that I learned along the way. So hopefully by the time you are reading the pattern, you have all of the tips and best practices so that you have the best experience. I can't tell you how many needles I broke while stitching these backpacks as I was learning different things, different ways that I could accessorize them while working with pre-quilted fabric, which as we know is thicker than just regular fabric. So speaking of thickness, when you are deciding what pre-quilted fabric you want to use, you have a couple of options. You can either use just 1 layer of, regular quilting cotton with 1 layer of batting and then a backing fabric, whether that's also cotton or like a lining material, that's totally fine. A few of my backpacks, I decided to use 2 layers of batting because I wanted them to be a little bit more stiff and stable. I wanted them to kind of stand up and have some structure to them as a 3-dimensional object. However, I found that using 2 layers of batting when quilting the fabric, it worked great and it provided that stability and the nice puff effect that you get from quilted fabric. However, I broke a few needles trying to stitch through 2 or sometimes 3 layers of pre-quilted fabric. That's like 12 layers of material trying to stitch through. So that's something to keep in mind. Think about how kindly you want to treat your machine to make sure that you're not pushing it too far above its limits. Now, that being said, it's also important to make sure that you have the appropriate thread and needles for your backpack. So I just got a pack of titanium organ needles, and these are especially good for stitching through thicker materials. So I'm going to switch my needle out and use this. And then as for thread, because I'm doing 3 different backpacks at the same time, all of which have different color schemes to what I'm putting together, I am going to use invisible thread in the top and bobbin. Now, this is not like water soluble thread. It is just invisible. It's still very strong. It's a 60 weight thread. And we are going to do a tight stitch length, so that's going to help with stability as well. But using a strong needle is going to be very advantageous for you as well. So read your machine manual, look at what needles you have at your disposal or what needle you might need. But also, if you break a needle, it's kind of a rite of passage. So it's not a huge deal. It's always important to have multiple needles on hand for your sewing machine. But we are going to be stitching through some layers of fabric. Now, in addition to having a good needle, another thing that's going to be helpful is if you, instead of using quilting batting or 2 layers of quilting batting in your quilted fabric, you can actually use a product called Soft and Stable, which is wonderful. It's a batting that also has stability built into it. So it's like you're quilting with 1 layer of batting in terms of thickness, but it's also like you're using 2 layers of batting in terms of stability. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So I will link in the description below where you can find Soft and Stable. For our Big Girl Bertha backpack, I will be using pre-quilted fabric that has Soft and Stable inside of it. So you can see the difference with that. Now for the Thick Boy backpack, I will be using a piece of pre-quilted fabric that has 2 layers of batting. So you can see the differences there as we go along in our journey. So hopefully throughout this tutorial, you will have enough time to both watch what I'm doing as I demonstrate, but then because I am going to be sewing 3 bags at a time, hopefully you can stitch along with me, and that will be enough time that you can stitch your 1 backpack set together. But always, of course, remember you can come back to this video and pause and rewind or slow down or speed up to your heart's content to make sure that you fully understand all of the steps that we're going to. And of course, this video is a supplement to the actual PDF pattern. So you want to make sure that you'll go grab that and download it at carlyporter.com. All right, well, let's jump in and make some backpacks. So before we get started, let's move to my overhead camera, and I want to show you kind of the evolution of a bunch of the backpacks that I have made in the past and show you some of the different options. And I'm also going to point out things in each of these bags that we are going to learn so that you can get a feel and understanding for what they should look like. All right, so I don't think I'm going to do this in any particular order, but so let me show you this first bag. So with this backpack, there are 3 main pieces to think about. So the first one is the front panel piece and the back panel piece. Those are in the pattern. However, I also have included in a lot of the cutting diagrams a 3rd optional front pocket, and that's what you see here. So notice that when I open this pocket, inside you still see the pre-quilted fabric, but then the front is also quilted the exact same way. So this is an inset zipper. So this is a front pocket that just is about halfway up the bag that you can slide things in and access from the front, and it's sewn down. So one of the things that you're going to learn in this tutorial is a top stitch. And we're going to talk about different areas of your bag where you will be doing some top stitching. All right, now this baby one, oh, what's in here? Of course, one of my kids stole it, so we've got some toys in there. So you can see that this bag is definitely smaller. This is a perfect little picnic size backpack, or if you have a baby, a little kid that loves to wear backpacks and likes to steal yours, this one is a perfect size for them. Now, the difference with this front pocket is that this is just the 1 front panel piece, and instead of having an additional quilted piece of fabric inside of it, what we have instead is a lining piece of fabric. So that's what creates the front pocket here, because it's lined on the inside. And then on the other side of the panel, we have some other additional pockets. So we have a cute little pocket here for a pen, and just a second smaller pocket, as well as a bigger pocket that also kind of serves as the lining for this bag. All right. Now, this bag is a little bit more stout and short, and with the front pocket, it still includes the quilted piece of fabric, but instead of adding a zipper, I've just bound that top edge so that it's just an easily accessible front open pocket. Now, another thing that we are going to talk about is backpack stability. And one thing that's so important is how are we handling those inside edges? Now, don't judge me too close because this is one of the backpacks that I made at the very beginning of my journey. And I did not do any sort of finishing edge on the inside of this backpack. And unfortunately, it's a good thing Ashley gave this back to me because now I'm going to need to repair this backpack because all I did inside was a straight stitch. So this stitch right here, and it's starting to come undone. I didn't singe any of my edges, which we will also talk about. But then we also are going to do a zigzag stitch that's going to protect these inside edges. Now, I am not so bougie a bag maker that I think that all of your edges have to be finished and that you're not allowed to see any raw edge seams. And I think that zigzag stitching is kind of a perfect middle ground where it's going to protect those sides, but I'm not trying to bind the inside seams of my backpack. Like ain't nobody got time for that in my mind. So we will kind of find a good middle ground. And we can also talk a little bit about doing double top stitching as well. So you can see here, I did 2 stitches instead of just 1. And that's really more just preferential than anything. It's kind of an extra design feature that I think makes it look a little more bougie, which can be fun. Now, you'll also notice with this backpack that I did not match my straps all the way around with the same webbing. So I used a pink webbing for the main strap, but then a coordinated yellow webbing. And I think that's just cute. So I would say don't get too nervous or worked up about making your backpack perfect. The goal for this pattern is to make your backpack exactly how you like it. Now you can see I staggered the straps here. That is another option that we'll talk about. I added a cute little tag in there as well as a tag in the front. We'll talk about customizations with tags. So you'll see more of that. So this backpack that I made for my cute friend Lindy, I did the same thing. So notice that the hanging strap is this brown, and then the backpack straps are teal, and then also the bottom straps are brown. And I actually attached the bottom straps a little bit differently, and we'll talk about different options for how you attach your straps. Then you'll notice I have some cute hardware in here. So another thing that you're going to want to consider is what type of hardware you want to include. If you want a swivel claw hook, if you like antique brass, or if you like bright silver, or if you like that rainbow oil slick silver hardware, you've got lots of options there as well. So here's another cute tag that I put in, as well as a patch. This patch was designed by Taralee Quiltery, and it's an iron-on patch, but I also sewed it down as well. And if you can see, it says quilter in both directions. Isn't that so cool? My friend Lindy is also a quilter, and so when I was making her this backpack, she chose this patch, and I was like, that's perfect, so cute. So that's the back placement of a patch, and we'll talk about placement of different embellishments. And then Lindy also wanted a zipper front pocket that is quilted, so I used quilted fabric there. Now, if we look inside of this bag, we did some lining options. So we chose to turn the back lining inside of here into an additional pocket. So this is just a little bit more secluded cavity for saving things that are not just going to fall down and get in the bottom of the backpack as a whole. And then we did an open pocket as well. That is the perfect spot for her to slide her iPad. So it kind of keeps her iPad in just the right spot. All right, this next backpack, when I sewed this, I was obsessed with this fabric. This is Alison Glass fabric that took me a long time to even be willing to cut up. And so I love this backpack so much, and it's one of the first ones that I made. So I put a tag there that says super proud of this. And I opted to do an open pocket, but then I also added this strap of wide webbing. This actually just came wrapped around a fleece blanket from Walmart, And instead of throwing it away, I just put it in my trim box and it matches perfectly. It also had Velcro already attached to it, which was so cute. So this Velcro really goes like that. And then it is a nice handle to pull that open. And then in here, I decided to just do 2 open pockets. So I can slide my laptop into one, my iPad into the other, and then I have a nice spot in the middle for whatever odds and ends that I want to fit into my backpack. And then again, I mismatched my webbing for my handle with my straps. Now this next backpack is so super special to me. This fabric is free motion quilted, and I actually quilted the fabric as a demonstration for my Graffiti Quilting Master Class. So this is not computerized quilting, it's all free motion. And that means that every panel, every part of the quilting is something different and unique. So I love this backpack because I spent so much time on the actual quilting. And so when I was deciding how to put the bag together and what embellishments to do, I wanted to show as much quilting as possible. So I didn't add patches or, you know, ribbon or anything very much, just this cute little handmade tag, because I wanted the quilting to be easily viewable. And then look how cute. Inside of here, I put a little tag that says handmade with love. I still need to write the date and things inside of it. So this one used that optional front piece that is included in many of the cutting diagram and instructions. Now, I also like to collect enamel pins, and so I will periodically switch out which enamel pin I have on my backpack. And then these charms are a really cute make and take that I got at QuiltCon in Alison Glass in her booth at QuiltCon. And it just fit perfectly right in that spot of quilting. And so I've kept that hung on this bag for a little while. Now this bag is a little bit stiffer because it has 2 layers of batting inside of it. But I will also let you know that this definitely gave me a run for my money in terms of trying to stitch it together. So there was even one part where I couldn't get my machine to stitch it through. Granted, I didn't use a titanium needle at the time. I should have, but I ended up just hand stitching to finish it off. And then I was able to go back in and stitch it with my machine very gently and slowly because each of those quilted layers has 2 layers of batting. And so that was quite the doozy. So I'm not saying that using 2 layers of batting is impossible. It's just something that you need to be wary of and understanding. If you have some sort of industrial sewing machine that you are not worried about stitching through tons of thick layers, then more power to you. But that soft and stable that I mentioned earlier is a really smart option just to keep you safe as you are stitching your bag together, because there are going to be times when you may stitch through not only 2 layers of pre-quilted fabric that have 2 layers of batting, but even sometimes 3. So in this area where my pocket is, this has 3 layers of fabric. So it has my outer pocket, whoops, let me open this. It's got this outer piece of fabric that has 2 layers, but then it also has the inner piece of pre-quilted fabric and then my gusset as well. So that is 2, 4, 6, 12 layers of material between my backing, my batting, and my quilt top that I had to stitch through. So, I mean, it's definitely worth it for the glory, but just something to be mindful of. And I hope that me telling you this, you can learn from my experience and use the backpack pattern safely, because I've worked out so many of those kinks in the pattern. All right, so this is another backpack that's super fun. So this is vinyl fabric that I quilted, and I believe this only has 1 layer of batting, which helped a lot because I was worried about the vinyl being super thick to stitch through. It actually quilted very, very beautifully, and it wasn't too crazy to stitch through on my sewing machine either, which was really nice. So this one has the front panel fabric. So when I open this, it also has the quilted fabric inside of it. So very, very nice. And then I did not do any lining pockets. So this is a good example of almost doing none of the optional steps for your backpack and just having a backpack that is one main big cavity. I mean, obviously we did this option, so we have 2 pockets, but you can totally leave your inner panels completely unlined so that this is just one nice big pocket where everything is accessible all to the same level. Okay, and then this, I used silver hardware on this so you can see some of the hardware differences. And with this bag, I stitched the corner webbing pieces at a 90-degree angle. But here's one regret that I have. These D-rings kind of get twisted and sometimes just end up going like that. So what I would do in the future is stitch down the webbing a straight line like that so that it will hold the D-ring in place so that this will kind of flap more as a unit instead of sliding around. Similar to what I did for the Baby Got backpack. See how I sewed that? And this is actually not even webbing, it's just like ribbon. But because this backpack is smaller, I felt like it was appropriate. But see how that D-ring hopefully lays a little more flat because I stitched down that spot. Okay, and then finally, my latest finished backpack. I really love this one. So this is more pre-quilted, free motion quilted, graffiti quilted fabric. Free motion graffiti quilted fabric. And this backpack I made for a musical artist that I love. Her name is Qveen Herby. Now, because the quilting is the main event, I didn't want to add another pocket here that would hide the quilting that I had. So instead, I did an inset zipper and I lined inside with this vinyl rainbow. And I'm so proud of it. And I love that the zipper is diagonal as well instead of being straight. I feel like it just has a little bit more of a designer feel to it by doing it diagonally. And then inside the bag, I did some built-in lining pockets as well. So on the front panel, I did 2 layers of this vinyl. So the vinyl inside of this pocket is the back of the vinyl that you see, which I felt like was a good idea because it's kind of soft, like it's kind of a felt type material. So there's an inner pocket with a zipper, but it's separate from this outer pocket. So I lined the vinyl as well. And then for the other half, I made a liner piece with an open pocket. And then of course the middle cavity that can serve as the main area to store things. And then for the hanging tag, I did a piece of ribbon that matched. And then I also customized the gusset on the side. Let me open this so I can really hold it flat. There we go. I added another piece of that same ribbon here. So that could serve as like a hook for a carabiner or for keys or for a keychain, something right in there. So we will talk about all the different points of customization that you can do with your bag. Now with this bag, instead of doing the side straps, I just did straight flat ones and sewed them down. And again, I didn't want to cover any of the quilting, so I didn't do any patches or anything fancy over there because I just wanted the quilting to really be visible as much as possible. And I think that was accomplished well. And I have this cute little thing that I'll probably make like a pencil case or a zipper pouch out of to go in it for Qveen Herby. So as you can see, there are lots of different ways that you can customize your own quilted backpack. And I'm so excited to jump into 3 different backpacks that we are going to go through all the customizations, take the pattern one step at a time, but do it for 3 different backpacks so that you can you're gonna be kind of multitasking and switching from one to the other as you watch me put these together. And hopefully they will spark some excitement and wonder about how you might make your own unique quilted backpack. So let's jump into the next part.